Alright, let's take a look at TodaysMeet and how to use it as a back channel for our classroom. TodaysMeet is very intuitive and very simple, but there are a few things that you want to take into consideration before you actually start using it that may alter a couple of choices that you make. So let's talk about how to use TodaysMeet as a back channel in your classroom, and we'll actually go over those. If you'll go to TodaysMeet.com, that will take you to this page. And here the premise is creating a simple page on the fly in which becomes somewhat of a discussion board, but it's a very simplified version of that. In the old days, if we want to use that term, old days, there was always, or many times there was a back channel going on in the classroom. You're in the front teaching, and yet there's another conversation going on besides the one you're having with your students, and it may be between a few students that are talking about, did you get what she said? I didn't understand that. What page are we on? That type of thing. What TodaysMeet does, it allows you to capture all of those conversations at one time and helps students stay focused on the content at hand. It also allows you to provide an easy site if you want to use it for note-taking that students can reference and come back to as they're recapturing what was taking place in the classroom, whether they were out for that day or they're reviewing for a test or something like that. Now, a few things you need to remember, or a few things you need to be aware of with TodaysMeet, is that once you say something in TodaysMeet, you can't edit or undo it. It is there. Great time to talk about digital citizenship with your students as you introduce them to TodaysMeet, that it's going to be there for the duration of that room. Also, because you can't edit, that means you might as well go ahead and, well, depending on your class, what your standards are. If one of your standards that you're grading happens to be punctuation and spelling, then you may not want to say this. But otherwise, if you're really just focused on content, not as worried about spelling and grammar, then you may need to just kind of put out there that as we communicate in TodaysMeet, spelling and grammar aren't priority. So they may speak in text, or they may make typos, and it's not a shameful thing. All right, let's go ahead and start. You'll want to start by creating a room, and you'll want to give your room a meaningful name that's going to be very specific. That's not going to be something that any Yahoo can think up. So if you're, say, at Graham High School and you teach English and you're creating it for the third period class, you may call your room Graham High School third period English or something like that. When you type in a name of the room that you want to, whatever you want to call it, it's going to show you either a green check mark, yeah, that room name is available, or it's going to give you a red X saying, oh, somebody's already got that tagged. You can't use that. Think of something else. So find a room that's not going to be third period or English, something that's going to lend itself to somebody outside of your class peeking in on. TodaysMeet is not a secure site in the sense that your room is not behind a locked door. Somebody could theoretically come across your URL and take a look and even add to the conversation. Hence, you want to come up with a room name that's not going to be quite so obvious. Next, set the duration for your room. You'll see that there's a variety, everything from 2 hours up to 1 year. However long you choose to keep your room open, so to speak, students can go to your room at that URL and they can add and read what you have. Once that time frame expires, that page and all the content on it ceases to exist. It's as if it never happened. There's no record of it on the web. So be thinking about that when you set up your TodaysMeet room. If you want it to be a semester, you'll notice that there's not a semester option on there, or 18-week option, something like that, however long you need that. So you may have to set it up as 1 month increments and renew it or restart it each time, knowing that when 1 month is up, everything that's in there gets wiped out. Or you may set it up for 1 year, and you may call it, if it's Graham High School 3rd period English, first 6 weeks, you might do GHS 3E1. And then the second 6 weeks, or second 9 weeks, second quarter, do GHS 3E2. And that way each time you have a fresh room that you can start with. But if you create them each with a year, then you have that previous classroom or the previous Today's Meet room still available for you to go back to in case you need to. So I'm just going to create this one for 2 hours just because it don't need it, and so we'll let it expire in 2 hours from the time I click on create your room. So let me go ahead and do that right now. And now it's going to ask for my name. It'll ask for your name each time you start a new session in your browser. So if you typed in your name and you click join, you close your browser and then you come back to it, it won't remember your name, so you'll have to retype that in occasionally. When you want your students to add information and you want to hold them accountable, then just tell them, they need to type in their first name. I probably wouldn't say first and last name, just because that may be too much information out there on the web that somebody could stumble across that has no need for that information. So if you're going to have them, if you have more than like one Brian in your class, then you might have them put Brian M and Brian K, their last initial. Probably wouldn't, in this situation using this tool, wouldn't recommend putting first and last names unless you're talking with teachers and adults, in which case it won't matter. If you're wanting to do a Today's Meet, create a new Today's Meet, and you want it more of a discussion, tell me what you remember about what we talked yesterday, then in that case I would say create a new Today's Meet that only is created for 2 hours, and tell them that they don't have to type in their real name. They can type in a fictional name, a name of a favorite character, something like that. So that way, if they do type in something and they're wrong, they're not shamed by it, and nobody knows that they were wrong except them, and they can still participate and engage without feeling bogged down by that not knowing. So again, here you can type in your information. So I'll start with what is your name? Now start with what is your favorite web tool? And here I could have people type in their favorite web tool. When you're using it with, whether you're using it with students or adults, but when you're using it, if you're going to be changing topics, one thing you'll want to do is type in something to designate, to give you a visual cue that there's a break in conversation and we're changing topics. So just putting in a row of dashes and hitting say, we'll put that in there, so as you're visually scrolling through that content, that will help you keep that difference in there. Also, if you're asking a question and you want people to answer the question, I recommend putting in the dashes so it puts that visual break in there, but then also type the question, so that way as you go back, or as students go back and look at the Today's Meet, they can scroll to the what's said before the questions, before the answers, to actually see what question were they answering. Otherwise, it may be a little ambiguous about what they're answering, and it may be a little bit harder to connect some dots and make some connections there. Once you're using the tool, down at the bottom, it will give you a shortened URL. You'll notice right there the today.io. It'll be a shortened URL that you can share out with your students. Again, that URL for that class will only be good for the duration that you set that class up to be. Once it expires, it will ask you to create a new class which will have no information in it. There will be a transcript link at the bottom, so if you want to keep that information, you can always click on transcript and it'll take away that say box or that join box, and here you can just select all, copy and paste it over into Word or another program if you need to keep a record of the transcript that ensued there in today's meet. Where Projector comes in handy is that if you want to walk around the room and monitor students, maybe you have them working in groups and you're talking about having them read a passage and talk about, based on this new chapter that they've just read, how do they see the main character changing from the previous chapter. So in the group they're talking about it, and here their group, they'll come up with a statement or an answer and they will put that in there. Clicking on Projector allows you to remove that say and join box. So if you have it projected on the wall or the screen, you can see what's being entered in today's meet as you walk around the room and visit each student. With the difference between Projector and Transcript, Transcript starts at the earliest point and goes down, so it's going to go in chronological order, which is the way that you would normally read it if you were following a transcript. Projector is going to go with what's been posted the most recent is going to be at the top. So those are the two differences. Even though they may look very similar, it's really reversing the order of the postings in there. If your students want to use speaker colors, they can click on that, and that will possibly help following conversations by showing speaker colors. If you forget when the room closes or need to be reminded, then you can just click on that gear icon again. It'll tell you that the room closes or expires at 6:30 p.m. today, September 19th. So again, just to reiterate, when you create a room, say for example I said, oh, I chose 2 hours, I really meant to choose 2 weeks. It's kind of like, so sorry. There's no way to extend that time. So in 2 hours it will expire, and then I'll have to go back in and create another one. So that's all there is to using today's meet. What I would recommend if you're teaching, say for example, high school, and you're teaching 5 subjects of science, maybe you're teaching 3 classes of biology, I would say create a today's meet for each period of biology, and then maybe create one today's meet for all of your biology students, because there may be some things that you want to share between classes that today's meet might be very appropriate for, and there would be today's meet rooms that you would say, no, this is just specific to second period biology, not third or fourth period biology. Let me take you back and show you what I'm talking about, though, that as far as being real careful about naming your room. If I wanted to call this, say for example, just for our tutorial, sample room, notice I have a red X. That means somebody already has that room named, so I can't use that name. But if I came up here and I just typed in sample room, then it takes me to what somebody else has created. It looked like Nicole has created this 7 days ago, and maybe they were just playing with it or something. So again, when you're thinking of naming your room, think about a naming convention that's going to be somewhat logical for you and your students, but not necessarily obvious to the crazy people in the world. All right, hopefully that helped you, and hopefully you can get more out of today's meet. There are lots of ways you can use it in your classroom, whether you're flipping your classroom, doing project-based learning, using it to collaborate or maybe have conversations with parents who maybe don't have time to come to the campus but still have questions, or another way of communicating with them in a very transparent, open, honest way. If you do use this with parents as well as you would with students, you want to reinforce the fact that When they post, there's no way to delete that post, or when they say something in Today's Meet, there's no way to delete that. So for them to use wisdom and common sense with each posting. All right, hopefully that helped you, and so you can get more out of Today's Meet. If it did, I would love to hear from you, and if you have some other back channel tools that you prefer, we'd love to hear about those as well. You can contact me at bellis@tcea.org. Visit us at our website, www.tcea.org. Follow us on Twitter, either my Twitter account, Dr. Bruce Ellis, or TCEA. Would love to have you join us in a conversation about how we can educate and innovate education to better meet the needs of our students as we use technology wisely. Thanks so much, and hopefully you found this helpful. Look forward to hearing from you.